Okay, so with the metal plate held in place now with the isolating plastic and the other metal plate back in place as normal, I'm now going to solder some wires, some of the very fine DCC wire, to the different parts of the motor so that I can take those off down the body and wire them up to the chip where there's some place for the chip to sit further back. So obviously I've got the left hand side of the motor and the right hand side of the motor. So for the right hand side of the motor it's an orange wire, for the left hand side of the motor it's a grey wire, and for the section that actually brings the power from the rails through the metal chassis up here to this screw, that's going to be pulling power from the left rail, and so that's going to be some black wire to match in with the DCC colour codes. So I'm just going to use my soldering iron to solder those three pieces of wire in place, and then we'll have a look at how we connect it to the chip. Okay, so I've now soldered in 3 connection wires to the different parts of the motor. So I've got a grey wire for the motor left, an orange wire for the motor right, and a black wire that's coming tucked underneath this screw here to make contact to pull the electricity from the left rail. What I'm going to do now is put everything back together. So I'm going to drop that motor back into the plastic underframe section there. Then I'm going to drop all that back into the whole bottom section of the chassis there and put everything back together so that we can start to wire all of the sections together and bring in the DCC chip. Okay, so the next job is to then connect up the wires that bring the power from the pickups at both the rear and the front together. So I've got this new red wire that comes from that pickup assembly that we attach to the rear bogie. That's picking up electricity from the left rail here, and the front motor bogie, as we've already discussed, picks up power from the left rail, passes it through the actual motor section, through this screw, and to this black wire that I attached here. So both this wire and that wire need to just be attached together so that they channel power to the same place. So I'm going to solder those two together. And likewise, on the other side, we've got the power that comes from the right rail at the rear that channels through here to this little wire, and we've got our new pickup that we've attached on the inside of the front bogie that picks up that extra little bit of power and brings it through this wire. So those two are going to be soldered together in the middle there, and that way I've got 2 central sections that I can attach straight to my DCC chip. Okay, so I've now finally got all the wires in place. So I've got these 2 wires soldered together, which will act as my left rail. I've got the grey wire that will act as my motor left. I've got these 2 soldered together that will act as my right rail, and I've got my orange, which will act as my motor right. Here I've got my DCC chip, so this is just a standard Hornby chip that we've used before, and as usual it comes with an 8-pin harness attached there, so I'm just going to cut that off, as we're not going to be using that as part of this installation, and then I've got all the loose wires ready to connect up. So it's just a case of connecting them colour for colour almost, so my orange to orange, grey to grey, red to my right rail, black to my left rail, and then we should be, hopefully, good to go. Okay, so it's been a bit of a mammoth upgrade, but everything seems to be done now. All the wires are connected into the DCC chip on the appropriate colour. I've used some insulation tape to make all of those secure and electrically safe. And all that remains now is to test and see whether she actually moves. So I've hooked her in to the DCC controller through the rolling road. So let's give her some juice and hope for the best. Well, we have motion. I think that's been a successful DCC conversion. Obviously at the moment it's still a little bit messy with all the wires, but I've still got another job to do yet using these other colours on the DCC chip. It's time to fit some lights.